Excellent. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'll make a presentation that has probably less to do with metadata than really trying to analyze a collection based on metadata that I extracted from this collection. Um, I'm a historian. I'm working currently on another project. I'm working currently on the Impresso project, which is a very large project on press and radio digitization and analysis. So creating a platform that put at the same place lots of different collections to be able to give an analysis tool to the user. And I'm doing quite a lot of stuff on network analysis of named entities within these collections, radio plus press together, etc., etc. But that's not really what I'm here. What I'll be talking about today. I'll mostly talk about historical network analysis. So how do we use archives to produce these kinds of nice graphs that we see everywhere? And I'll talk more precisely about one specific way of using network analysis to analyze a historical archive. What is interesting well, I probably should try to collapse this menu so that you can see more, or to move it somewhere. Yeah, the transcription is okay, I think, but the like that. Yeah. So yeah, we have lots of ways to analyze historical networks. I listed a few here. I won't really comment on all those. The goal is just to tell you that in general in history we have two ways of analyzing networks. The first one is by trying to map or to translate into nodes and links a situation that is already a network, like people talking to each other, knowing each other, etc., etc. So we try to reconstruct something that was already perceived as a network by the actors of the time. While the other one that is much more closer to metadata analysis or our understanding of large archival network nowadays is to use network analysis to try to understand the situation, while the situation is not necessarily a network in the first place. Could be words, bags of words in documents, etc., and extracting entities from that and mapping these words to try to get a better understanding of a specific situation over a specific data set. So what I will present today is an example of correspondence network analysis, where we analyze documents themselves. So we're not interested in the content of the documents. We are interested in the fact that this document, they traveled from one office to another office. So trying to have this metadata analysis of the bureaucracy of an organization by looking at how these documents circulate from a person to another. I probably need to click again on PowerPoint. Yeah. Yeah. This little slide just to tell you that if you are interested in network analysis, you can have a look at the website that we set up with quite a big bibliography of papers about historical network analysis. So that's just a hint if you're interested. But the case study I will speak about today is the case study about the International Committee on Intellectual Cooperation of the League of Nations. I'm a historian of the interwar period, so I'm working on this specific committee of a very big international organization, the League of Nations, so the ancestor of the UN. And this specific committee was a group of people meeting once a year to discuss big scientific and artistic questions. Members of this committee were scientists and people from the arts that were at the height of their career. So very well-known people. You had Albert Einstein, Marie Curie, Henri Bergson, etc. So very high-profile individuals that were gathering to try to discuss scientific conventions, exchange of publications, bibliographical conventions. How do we? What's the protocol to export Marie Curie's radium to Poland? What was the kind of international agreement that we need to reach to be able to share these products, research products, etc., etc. So very, very small committee that was within a very, very large bureaucratic organization. We know the UN today. The League of Nations was very similar to the UN, a very, very big organization with lots of different committees, lots of different, the Assembly, the Council, the Secretariat, etc., etc. So a very, very big machine that produced a lot of archive, of course. And what is interesting to the historian interested in not only the people, but also the archive itself is not those well-known faces here. Or you probably recognize Albert Einstein at the end of the table. Marie Curie is also supposed to be here, but she was always very reluctant to be taken, the effort to have a photograph being taken. So she was the other side of the table here, trying to avoid the photograph. What is interesting here are the papers that are on the table here, metaphorically, I would say, because of course I can't zoom in this picture to have a look at this document. But what is interesting is that the fact that all these documents, they are elements that links those people together at some point. A telegram will be sent from one to another. A report will be signed by someone or by a group of people. An internal note will be written by one secretary to the other to say, hey, we need the translation of this report, so please translate it into French or German, etc., etc. So that's what is interesting to me. And this data is now available on the United Nations Archives website, so you can browse the whole League of Nations archives there. So that's millions of pages, of dozens of millions of pages that are available there as very, very large PDFs. When I did this research, the digitization was not finished yet, so I did not work on this platform. But basically, that's what you will face now if you want to study these documents. Interestingly, this is a project, or interestingly or sadly, this is a project that has been done without any enrichment of metadata. So that means that you just have one PDF per file. A file can contain up to 200 different documents, sometimes just 10, sometimes a lot more. But what is very interesting is that one file is like a thread of mails. It's just one document that has been received at some point, and then the answer to this document, and then the internal report about what needs to be done, and then a small note by the secretary to say, hey, we need a translation of that, then the draft of the translation, then the translation, then the published report, etc., etc. So each of this file is a very interesting unit for analyzing this organization. Here is just an example of what it looks like. This is the file that concerns services of Professor Einstein. So you have all the letters of Einstein here, all those that relates to his own implication in this board. So the first one, when he got invited, and then the answer, then a telegram to say, in fact, I won't be able to come to this meeting, and then the response to this telegram, etc., etc. So all these papers, they are here in this file. For metadata specialists, you will like in the fact that the first sheet of the file contains the list of all the people who have got the file in the hand. So that means that this physical object would move from a desk to another desk. You would take it, move it to the desk of the translator to say, hey, now you need to, there is something to do for you here. So they will put the name, the date, on the first sheet, and then the translator will include the translation and then pass it back to someone else, etc., etc. So I will not be, I'm not working on this metadata, but that's a very, very nice way of trying to trace the snake, all these different threads of documents in this organization. What is interesting to me here is mostly the people that are involved in these documents, and I indexed all of these files manually to recognize all the signature by Albert Einstein, etc., etc., and all trace all the secretaries and to trace all these people in this data set. And the result is this kind of very big hairball, very big spaghetti monster, where each dot is a person, and each line between these dots is the fact that this person were indexed in the same file. So this is a very messy representation. This is not really a research tool in itself. The visual representation of this graph. It's more like just an explicit of the kind of structure you find in these archives. So we'll need to find a way to disentangle that and make it work for the historical question we might have about this archive. But that's still 3,000 files almost, with a bit more than 3,000 people involved in these files. We can already start to see a few patterns arise from this analysis of this specific kind of metadata that was extracted from all these files. One approach to try to disentangle that would be maybe to extract a ego network, like network around a certain person, to try to understand which kind of files these people are involved in, which kind of neighborhoods they are active. Of course, and here I just extracted three different profiles. Eric Drummond, who was the Secretary General, so someone he's likely to be connected to loads of people. Marie Curie, one of the experts of this committee, so more in the scientific part. Alfred Simmern, who is a minor officer in this field. So just to try to understand the kind of files these people are involved in this collection. And of course, another metadata I try to keep from these files was the theme of the document, the subject, or especially the department, if you want, where these files have been kept. So you can make a specific subgraph for everything related to this subject or this subject, to try to understand who are the people that were active on which of these subjects. So you'll have more people active or more scientists are active in the university relation theme than in the pure administrative files of the committee, where you'll have much more secretaries, etc., etc. So this is, of course, just also one way of trying to disentangle that. Another interesting way is to try to map the geographical or the bureaucracy itself as a kind of an institutional topography, to try to put all these people at the place where they are supposed to be in the big organization chart of this organization, to understand which kind of area of the organization is concerned by which kind of documents in this collection. And this is something that works very well when you take our three examples again, and realize that if you are at the top of the organization, which is the situation of Eric Drummond, you're connected to almost all subcommittees and different departments of the organization, while when you are a scientist in this blue area, or a more minor officer or secretary position, you will have access to less people in the organization, basically because of how an organization works, which could be rather trivial, but in a certain way, being able to, for these 3,000 people, being able to track that and to see who is bypassing the hierarchy, who has connection to a specific group within the structure, could be or simply who has access to specific people within this network, is rather interesting. But then comes the historical research question. Historians about this subject, they really wonder, was this organization something that was mostly led by what happened in Geneva, where the League of Nations was seated, or is it something that was taken from Geneva by the French government that tried to finance a lot of initiatives in this field? And they created an institute in Paris, which is the ancestor of the UNESCO. So it became something very big in the end. They created it in the 1920s, and it made us. It created a lot of administrative activity there. So the big question historians have about this subject is: did France really succeeded in taking this scientific collaboration and scientific coordination to Paris instead of Geneva? So that's something we can see in these archives, because we can very easily look at the evolution of this organization as a whole, put some colors to say, okay, blue is Geneva, red is Paris, and the white are the experts that are moving from Geneva to Paris from time to time. and look at the at the larger picture and realize that, yeah, we see very well this two different area of the graph that are the people that are in Geneva, the people that are in Paris, and those scientists that are in the middle. But then we of course don't want to just analyze it in a pure visual way. We want to dig into that and realize that those scientists in Geneva, those or in Geneva and Paris, those guys in white here, they have very few connections outside of the red and blue dots, while in fact the vast majority of the people that were involved in this document, they are neither blue or red, they are black. They are those people that are outside of Geneva and Paris. All those people in the different countries that are the university professors, people from international organizations, etc., etc. So in fact, those white dots in this graph, even if they appear at the center, they are not the people that are very well connected to the outside world, which is something that we want to test by analyzing graph metrics to try to understand the structural position of these people in this indexation network. I will not make the whole graph theory 101 here, but just for you to, if you're not familiar with a network analysis, so basically we can compute metrics based on different characteristics of these dots, and especially one that will be interesting in our case is the betweenness centrality, which is a metric that will be high for people in a network that are very often on the path between other people. So if you are the only one in your department that has connection with another department, that means that in theory, if we want information to pass from your department to the other one, it has to go through you. So that means you'll have a high betweenness centrality. So these people are not necessarily the most important in a group, but they are very important if we want information to be shared from a place to another in this structure. So that's what we will calculate for all of these 3,000 people to see what's the result. And the result is that all our very high-ranked individuals in this network based on this betweenness centrality, so the vertical axis here, are blue and red and not white, which is quite surprising for historians working on this subject, because historians working on this subject, they always want to look at Albert Einstein, Marie Curie, etc., which are those white dots at the very bottom. And they never study the people that are actually doing the job in the institution, which are the secretaries and the international civil servants, either from Geneva in blue or Paris in red. Here you see the difference is not that important. So to conclude, this very small analysis is a way for the user of this kind of collection to detect the people that are in a specific situation within this archive. What is interesting is that you're not anymore just counting the number of times someone is appearing in the archive. You're also trying to understand the neighborhood of this person and the thematic importance of or the thematic profile of these people in these archives. What led me here to say that there are people that are more generalist in a certain way. They will appear in lots of different kind of files because they are like jack of all trades of this of scientific relations. So they will be called as an expert on many different subjects, while others are more specialists. We've seen that Marie Curie and Albert Einstein are those specialists that were called for very specific topics, while other people were much more broadly involved in lots of different types of files. So to conclude, I'm very aware that this is something that makes sense if the archive is complete, as complete as possible. You won't do that on something that lacks a lot of stuff. In this case, analyzing this kind of data or metadata is really not analyzing the subject itself. I'm not trying to make the Facebook of these people and trying to understand the social relations. It's really a tool to understand the archive itself. It's really not analyzing the subject and scientific collaboration, but it's really analyzing how the archive is structured and how the bureaucracy of this organization works. And in the end, it's more an exploration tool than a tool that will provide a quantified result. I mean, the little statistical analysis I did here was more to give a hint about the structure of this graph. But what is important here is that this kind of tool can be used as a way of accessing the data itself and saying, okay, now I want to see only the documents that are involving this guy, and this subject, and to be able to narrow down to a specific file, etc. So I am currently discussing with the UN the implementation of this kind of metadata in their database. The problem is that at the UN, the legal department is 20 times bigger than the heritage department, so they are quite afraid of adding anything to what they already have, and etc. So, but we do have a few partners that are interested in putting some money into now going a bit further in the description of these collections, and I hope this will happen at some point. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Are there any questions?
I may have a question. Thank you for this fascinating talk and the fascinating analysis and visualizations. It's great. It's a great tool to see, as you said, archive as it is. I'm curious about one thing is, and that's the temporal aspect. This is kind of collapsed. You see it at one point, and you put everything together. Have you kind of explored any ways of showing the development throughout the time and how the network might have changed throughout the time and how to visualize that, perhaps?
Yeah, exactly. That's totally something that is always important for historical network analysis, because we are basically always analyzing things that are evolving in time. In this case, of course, yeah, I do have a lot of experience in that. I'm working on a relatively small period. The network you see here, it's like 7 years, something like that. The League of Nations itself, it's 20 years in total, so just an interwar period. So it's not that long to make a real diachronic analysis. But of course, I'm doing a year-by-year study of how these relations unfold and how different subjects arise and how different people also became more important in this kind of structure. The thing is that we always, once again, linked to the way the archive has been kept, which is files where you will have messages and answers to these messages, and these answers will come after maybe after some years. You will reopen the file because you have new elements that arrived on the same subject. So that means that you would need a finer indexation to be able to account for this very fine-grained temporal analysis.
Thanks. I was also thinking about the temporal aspect, but then another one I think is a very good objective to understand the archive and think it from that perspective. And related to that, there's the group that James was talking about that how it was made and this kind of historian's approach, archive or something. So along those lines. But then the other side of the coin might be that statistical ways of looking at the probabilities of something being missing based on what there is. Have you, with this particular archive, have you done anything or thought about that kind of a so getting an understanding? I mean, obviously, it's not, especially if there's a collection of letters and other type of documents. Official documents maybe might be archived in a different way, but especially the historical letter collections they're never complete. So the kind of understanding that what might be missing before trying to understand that, what can we infer from what there is at the moment?
Yeah, I mean that's. I also know that I'm working on a data set that is very nice for this completeness, because it is almost complete. We know that from the fact that most of these documents were recorded when they entered. We have the draft of everything that has been sent, etc., etc. So and also it was in Geneva and not in Paris or in another capital where archives would be destroyed during World War II. So I think this is a very small case study that could be used as a benchmark for other institutional archives to see, okay, do we have the same structure? Do we have the same quantity or the same number of well, do we have the same long tail distribution, etc., etc.? Because this one is rather complete. We know that because that's a very specific archive, and I know that's not the case for all archives. So I think this is looking at the distribution, especially of the connections of each person or each file, etc., would be a nice benchmark for to compare other collections to see if we do have the same kind of structure and distribution. In this case, trying to find the missing documents or the missing links would not be easy because of the ambition of this archive to be complete. So they wouldn't, they are not listing anything that is not there. Of course they are, because
Thanks. Then James.
Okay. Thanks for the talk. And I was thinking whether this your process could be transformed into a tool which could be used by other archives. So are you far from this, or it's
not that far? There are a few tools that have been developed that have been discontinued, unfortunately, to do that. The thing I want to develop now, well, of course, I'm working on another project now on press and radio, so that's not gonna happen very soon on my side. But the thing I'm asking the UN and a few research institutions that do have money, an awful lot of money, and they don't know what to do with that. I'm pushing so that they develop something that can be used as a tool that can be then reduced to other for other collections. Exactly, that could be used in the first place for this collection, but then be made available for others, because that's clearly something that could be very useful, especially also just simply for a basic user to be able to browse collection in a structural way and not just as a very long list of results.
Thanks.
James.
So towards the end, you started talking about the kind of interpretations of people involved in this archive and the relative importance and how you think about that with the network approach. I'm assuming that you took all documents as equal and all people's contributions to those documents as equal. And I'm guessing there are moments, because you know this collection and you know this history, where you're thinking, well, some of these documents are sort of more important, quote, than others. So we all know people in meetings who sign the document that contribute in a way. So some contributions are more important than others. So I'm guessing there's a sort of like, this work partly involves trying to get rid of that historian's itch to kind of focus on the important things. But I'm also curious then, so what comes out of this to you that suggests things that are surprisingly important? Does this work like throw those in the air for you? Because that's the real value of this kind of work, right? Going beyond the focusing on the periods or the documents or the contributions quote known to be important, to find other parts of importance to this collection.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's exactly the aim of this project was to flatten this hierarchy between what was considered important. So most of these archives have never been used by historians, but the exceptions are the files where Bergson, Einstein, and people like that appear, because that's something that will be an attention magnet for historians. So the goal here was to be able to show that, yeah, look, this Polish secretary that no one remembers, he was much more influential than Albert Einstein in this committee. Albert Einstein, he came like 6 times at a meeting, while the other guy was here every day and was the guy that transmitted this very specific information to this other important person. So that's the kind of thing I wanted to be able to make visible. Yeah. So and it is true that based on the very different quality of these documents, especially considering that an internal note has the same value as a full report or a telegram that might be just someone sending someone else, hey, I won't be present this day at the meeting, please schedule it differently, etc. But of course, that's a very low level interaction, but trying to understand this bureaucratic machine is also, flattening all this to yeah, to try to get a sense of the larger pattern and not necessarily just one relation here and there.
You weren't tempted for points.
No, in the end, it didn't make lots of sense. Just by looking also at the distribution of these relations, you realize that in fact they are more or less, well, there are lots of different types of document between lots of different types of people, and in the end, it's more like, yeah, weighting them would give more or less same results, because that's a lot of things.
Okay, thank you.